All right. I am so excited, so honored to have Eric here on the Move Happy Movement podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you, Erin.
So we had a phenomenal call last week. I really loved hearing your story. For those that aren't connected to you, we connected on LinkedIn. Why don't you talk about, from your despair to millionaire, like what you're about, what you're doing, what you're excited about in your future.
Thank you. Now, this doesn't go with the questions that you told me in the order that it went. It's okay.
You're just telling your story.
No problem. It is. Thank you. I have an entrepreneurial background. I was fortunate enough to be part of a couple of startups. That's later on in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, early, so that's the entrepreneurial part. Early in my career, I really only worked, or early and throughout my career, I only worked in really two industries. The first one, I got my start after dropping out of college in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I was a telephone collection agent for a company, and I reported directly to the founder of the company, the president, who I write about in my book as a very significant, very pivotal mentor for me early on. And he was a consummate entrepreneur, tough guy, but I responded really, really well. Tough in the sense that he was very, very successful and was very results driven. Was the kind of person I looked at him and said, I want to be just like him. Mm-hmm. So I modeled after his management style then, and to this day I refer back to some quotes and derivatives of his style that helped me all the way throughout my career. He was very pivotal in the trajectory of my career, and I was fortunate enough after 25 years, Erin, of losing touch, when I wrote my book and I was doing the chapter on mentoring, I reached out to him and we reconnected after 25 years, and he was very happy and honored, and I was thrilled to be able to tell him that I featured him in my book.
That's awesome.
So that career, I started at entry level. I worked my way up really quickly, probably quicker than I should have. He saw a lot of opportunity. A lot of potential rather, and there was a lot of opportunity, and he saw the potential of me fitting into that. I did that, for about 10 years in a couple of different locations, different level of training, managing at the branch level, collection manager level. Mm-hmm. And after about 10 years of doing that, I left the company. He had already subsequently left, I subsequently left after he did. And I was living in Maine at the time, and I took a job just to take a job making like $10 an hour in a health club. Long story short, I answered an ad in the paper because I needed a part-time job, and that was to sell products over the phone. I'd already had phone collection experience. This was more like inbound sales. So that was my entry into my next career, which I did for 10 years, entry level phone sales agent. And I worked my way up on the phones there, qualifying for a cruise and for an elite sales team. And then a few years into that, my director of sales, his brother, and another partner were leaving to start another company. They invited me into, even though I was just quote unquote, just a sales agent there, or a phone sales agent, I did have the previous management and training experience that I talked about a little bit earlier. They invited me in with a very small ownership piece, and the opportunity for growth there. So what I'm leading up to is a couple of months after the startup that I was building out their sales training and doing their training and leading and managing their phone sales agents, similar job that I was doing before. In the prior company, I had met a woman that we became engaged. In a couple of months after the start of this company, things were looking really bright. I'm part of a new startup, even though I wasn't making a lot of money. I was, it was a bright future. This was April of 1999. I'm sorry. The company we started, or I began working with the guys, the three founders. I was the fourth guy in beginning in 1999. Just a few months later, in April, right after we had opened the company for a couple of months. My fiance died suddenly in an automobile accident.
Oh my gosh.
So that was incredibly devastating, to say the
Yeah.
least. She had two young girls that I had come very close with. At the time they were 9 and 7 years old. This woman was the love of my life, lit up the room with a smile, just a great human being, and she was gone in literally an instant. You know, I had the support of my brother, and the support of my mom, and the support of other family members at the time, sisters back then. And, you know, I threw myself back into work. Financially, I struggled. About 6 months after that, I ended up filing personal bankruptcy, which was another kind of a personal hit. And right around that time, which would have been early 2000, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. My mom, who I was very close with and really helped me, having experienced close losses herself. So that, without going into, you know, we only have limited time, I guess that's a real glimpse of about a year or so, over a couple of years, of some real serious hits, despair-wise, losing two very close people that I loved, both the fiance and my mom. You know, different relationships, different impacts, but both very, very significant impacts, losing them. And also the financial struggle, which, you know, so there was depression and despair and that type of thing that may come along with something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That's a lot to go through in a very short amount of time to process through. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Now, with the company, did you stay working with them, or okay.
Yeah, good question. You know, I worked with them, and the combination of the three founders and myself and some other key people that we brought on, were able to build a company from just a handful of us up to a couple of hundred people. Needed more space.
Wow.
You know, we did a really good job performing and servicing our clients. Company grew. Meanwhile, my brother, this is about 2.5 to 3 years in to working with that company and building it up from just a handful of us to a couple hundred people and double the size, at least in space. And I was handling their training, or at least from a management level, overseeing their training, sales agent performance, and handling client service work, because it tied in very closely with the performance on the calls. So the point is my brother, who worked in a completely different industry, high tech, almost 10 years older, he was leaving high tech after doing very well, but had about an hour-and-a-half commute each way, of doing it for about a number of years. And he sort of checked out what I was doing in Maine. He was back in Massachusetts, and decided he was going to start a similar type company, a call center, and invited me in to head up for a bigger ownership stake in the company, and also invited me in with a couple of other partners for me to head up the call center, recruiting, hiring, training, performance. Wow. So it was a tough decision, because I've been in Maine for 7 years, but I picked up in the summer of 2001 and moved back to Massachusetts. And my brother and I and a couple of partners started a company called Triton Technologies, which is still in business and still a thriving company to this day.
Awesome.
How many years later? Almost 20 years later. And we started off not unlike a lot of other companies. We wondered why we actually left 3 perfectly good jobs. We had a third partner. Why did we leave for this? You know, we struggled mightily for the first few years, and then because we were very good on performance and very good on compliance and service and treating our clients and their customers well, and also having a great ability to be able to teach, train, and sell, recruit, and retain. And a terrific supporting cast to our call center. After the 3 really tough years, we had 3 exceptional years in succession. And for a variety of reasons, we made the decision to sell the company. And, you know, 6 years after being in business, we sold the company. And, you know, that was an exciting thing. And we did not have the view or didn't have a crystal ball to see this was in 2007. We didn't see what was coming down to the country and economy.
Yeah, good timing.
2008 and 2009. So as it turned out, it was the right time. Now, we stayed on, my brother and I, we stayed on for another 5 years and did our best to help build and grow the company. That was part of the arrangement. And after about 5 years, it was sort of like it was time to sort of move on. So in late 2012, right, almost 2013, we left after 5 years post sale.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal for me, I can't speak for my brother, but the goal for me was to take a year off and regroup. And as it turned out, the years kept rolling on. And 2 years ago, 2018, right around this time is when I started writing my book about the experience. I came to the conclusion that I feel like my story, between the despair and then 6 or 7 years later getting to the point of being able to retire, ultimately I retired about longer than that, but I mean being set to be able to basically be set, and then retired 5 years later. I thought there was some value in there. My whole career I spent recruiting, training, leading, mentoring people. So I thought coaching would be a logical step at that point, and also writing a book of my experience. That hopefully the goal of writing the book was really helping people from an inspiration and empowering perspective.
Yeah, yeah. And you've been through so much, and you really touched on a lot of the pillars of Move Happy. Do you think that kind of working with, whether it was working with the first business you were with or with your brother, helped you to keep a positive mindset, have something to focus on, or what kind of strategies do you think worked for you?
That's a great question. In the first startup company that I helped, I was the fourth guy in, and I helped build that company for the first 2.5 or 3 years. The three founders were very, very capable people, and they did a great job. I was an additive to that cause, and I certainly helped out on the call center performance and on the client service side, and developing of the other supervisors and trainers, because my background had been in supervising and training. But it was definitely a positive, especially with some of the stuff I was going through, having been part of the startup and having it be demanding as it was. It was a good distraction. Having been retired for a bunch of years until recently, I know what it's like not having enough of a distraction.
Yeah.
It can lead to some meandering that, and decisions that you make because you don't have to get up for work the next day, that, kind of thing, which can be not the best. So being busy and hopefully I'm answering your question. And then the subsequent startup, Triton, that again, I was with my brother and after co-founding it, we were with it for 11 years. That was an excellent challenge as well. For the first few years that we were struggling to stay afloat, to the subsequent few years that were really the heyday, and then the final 5 years, which was trying to continue to grow the company, diversify the company, build the company. And we had some excellent people there that really helped us make it happen at all levels of the company.
Love it. And I can imagine, within business, there's a certain amount of communicating and building community within within your customers, as well as, maybe competitors, and building those relationships. What are some strategies you've learned in building strong communities that has been helpful for you?
Yeah, I like to keep it real simple, and I teach, and I learn that way the best. I am a college dropout after all, so there's a reason for that. So I learn very, very simple, in very simple terms. I learn best that way. So I teach when I teach and train, whether it be sales teams, customer service teams, or any other teams, or giving a talk. I like to keep it simple. And one thing I like to do is the ABCs, which is simple enough. A for attitude. That's these ABCs are high on a short list of things we can control. And one of the even highest on this short list is our attitude that we bring to the table each day. There were times, and there were more than once in my career, that was one of the few things I had to bring to the table, was a can-do, winning, teachable, coachable attitude. So that's really important. The next thing I think is really critical is your belief system. You touched on it, Erin. Your clients, and believing in your clients, believing in the people that work for you, believe in your team, in other words, believing in your colleagues, believing in your mentors or your managers. A strong belief system at all directions and levels is really, really critical, starting with belief in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the AB. There's two C's, so it's ABC with an apostrophe S. The first C is the extreme power of choice. Now, as you're building your community or building your career, you have a lot of choices. So you're building your family, or you're deciding whether to go to the gym or go to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about choice. Ultimately,
Yeah.
it's about choice. Choice is a powerful thing. That's why I have it as the first C. You know, the choice to work on self-development, personal development, and self-improvement is a choice. Making the right choices. And last but not least, communication is vital. Communication, be it written communication, there's a whole chapter on my book on communication, because it's people a lot more successful than me have identified it as you know, a huge part of people's success is their ability to effectively communicate. So those are the ABCs, and that's sort of what I, you know, would articulate and encourage people to think about, you know, in those simple but real important terms.
Love it. Love it. And thank you for those tips. And it's nice to have an acronym so that we can, you know, remember and recall. And those are really important. The third pillar of Move Happy is about movement. You know, it started as a program for my patients in a hospital, psychiatric hospital setting, and zero budget. So with that in mind, what are some of your favorite ways to move your body?
Excellent question. And with age and some medical things, I used to be a very serious workout person. I talk a little bit more about it in my book, but most importantly, you asked a really great question that's near and dear to my heart. And that is, what do I do for movement? I have a passionate love-hate relationship with the 3-step Stairmaster. If you can visualize that in the gym, obviously for 4 months, between the end of February, where I was restricted to working out because I had a retinal detachment that was healing, and then of course the COVID lockdowns that happened in March. So between March and early July, I wasn't able to go to the gym and do this. But since then, I've been back. And before that, I did it. I love the if you can visualize a 3-step escalator. It looks like the three. It's not the stair. It's not the stair. Whatchamacallit. It's not the elliptical. It's literally 3 stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, regardless of how fit you are or how fit you're not, you can really. That's the best bang for my buck for the time that I'm doing a workout, and cardio workout that is. I really challenge myself on that. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one for sure. And then what are you really excited about that you'd like to share with our audience? What's going on in your world?
Well, yeah, and thank you for letting me talk and share up to this point, actually, Erin. Yeah, you know, it's pretty clear that my book that published earlier this week is this thing that I'm really, really excited about. From Despair to Millionaire, Growing Beyond Hardship, which is available on Amazon right now, either in paperback or in you know, the Kindle or e-version. And it's you know, it's a guide to help people gain traction at any phase of their life, and to certainly inspire them and empower them to get to whatever next levels they're getting to, or you know, work levels could be of fulfillment, right? It doesn't have to be levels of financial gain, or it can be, it certainly can be, you know, at anything, which I talk about, you know, a lot of things, but fulfillment, which is all encompassing and much more encompassing than just, you know, financial, for sure.
That's awesome. So everybody needs to order your book now, go on Amazon, From Despair to Millionaire. And then if they want to connect with you for any of your coaching services, what's the best way for them to reach out for that?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I'm on LinkedIn under my name, you know, Eric Chasen, on Facebook under the same. And my website is also the same, Eric Chasen. I have a landing page, you know, the own site for the book, but I have my own. And my favorite thing to do is speaking, group coaching, but on a limited select basis, I also do one-on-one coaching as well, as long as it's a good fit for them and in particular, and for me as well. So, but I love speaking, I love training, and I love group coaching, and also, you know, I will do individual as well.
Awesome. So everybody needs to go to ericchasen.com, sign up for services, get them set up for your next speaking engagement opportunities. This has been really fun. Love to close it out with a fun question to keep you on your toes and help the audience to get to know you a little bit better. I did notice behind you, it's blocked now, but I saw a big 500, Inc. 500. What's that about?
Oh, I was hoping you were going to ask about my karate certificates and said, no, the Inc. 5000, the
Oh.
Inc. 5000. My son says, Dad, you talk about not graduating. You got all kinds of certificates up there. It's because you don't have a college degree. You got to put all these other ones up there. That's when you have a 17-year-old son. Those are the kind of critiques you get. Thank you for asking about the Inc. 5000 fastest growing small companies in 2006 and 2007. I'm sure I'm quoting those dates right. 2006 and 7, or 7 and 8, and I apologize, I'm off. It's been over 10 years, but Triton was named in the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing small companies, and that I'm sure about is for 2007, and that is recognizing. I think we were about 1,100 out of 5,000 fastest growing companies in the country.
That's huge. Congratulations. And now, what is karate? Much. Tell us about this karate thing. You piqued my interest.
Back about 10 years ago or so, I got our son into karate, and I was always a gym person, but I was kind of bored with the gym, and I was watching his classes, and I got myself into the adult classes, and every 3 months I tested for several years, and worked my way up to a second degree black belt in one style, and then also a first degree in another organization that the founder had as well. So I actually I stated as I survived many karate tests, and even I've survived 3 black belt tests, which is one of the more challenging things I've done.
That's awesome. So when we do a follow-up session, maybe you'll show some of your moves.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for, getting vulnerable with us, sharing your story, and I would love to have you back.
Thank you very much, Erin. Much appreciated.